The first thing I do here is to locate the center of the front of the bodice. That center serves to align my markings for the darts. I usually use a tailor's chalk to mark the darts, but if the marks aren't that vivid, I will also use a pencil. I'll do the same on the other side, making sure that the dart lines are meeting together so that they'll all be at the same length. To make sure that the dart points are at the same position, I will use a pin, and that would mark where the point is actually ending. And then I will cross match that with a pencil. And that way I can be sure that the dart points are meeting where the pattern has had them on. And then I baste this together in that way. When I put it in the sewing machine to sew, it will not spring back and I wouldn't lose my place. And I do the same to the other side. I check the heights of the darts, and it looked like one is shorter than the other one, so I make the adjustment. And then I take away the pins. I double check the length of the dart lines again, and they're the same, about 1 inch in length. And then I go ahead and sew the dart lines, but I will bar tack first. Before I sew, I adjust the length to a small one, about 3. And I bar tack and then move forward to the end of the dart and bar tack again, and that way it won't unravel on me. I do the same to the other dart lines, making sure that they're about the same length, and I pay attention to where my basting is. And then I finger press the darts that's towards the inside of the center. That's what you do with an actual full-size pattern. So I finger press here just so that they'll lay flat. I do the same to the front side as well. Then I set my sewing machine to zigzag stitch, and also set the stitches to a small size. So I'm going towards 2 in here, so it's very small. I'm going to zigzag all the parameters and raw edges of the pieces that I have cut. So I'm right here in the front bodice. I always reverse my machine to lock the stitches in place, and then I feed the next piece continuously so I don't break. I will cut right here to break loose the other piece before I feed the next one. I'm right now on the last piece, which is the skirt, and I zigzag throughout. Now this one I'm still on the other side of the bodice, but the next one to this one will be the skirt. I'm going on the front side when I'm putting the zigzag on the skirt because I want to make sure that both lace and the satin lining will be caught in place. As you can see here, satin ravels quite a bit, so I want to make sure that in this longer length of the fabric that the two layers will not be separated. Here's the front against one side of the back, and then you have the other part of the back pinned against the front side. This is right sides together, and this will form the bodice of the dress. My seams are 1/4 of an inch, and I'm using the guide on the sewing machine. There's a plate in there with markings. But first I will put this back to straight stitch, and then I go back to about 3. I'm bar tacking here to make sure that my thread does not unravel. I'm finger pressing here to flatten the seams on the sides. I'm doing it at the inside part of the garment and also towards the outside. Then I trim towards the top part of the garment here, and this is to reduce the bulk on the side seams. So I'll do this step to both sides of the side seams of the top of the bodice. Then I fold the seams at the raw edge of the bodice towards the top, about 1/4 of an inch, and I'll put this to the machine. I bar tack here to secure the ends, and then go forward with sewing with just a straight sewing stitch. Then I take the top portion of the bodice and put it to the iron. Very, very low heat, because this is satin and lace. And I believe that both of these fabrics are polyester, and they will melt on a high heat. So it is very important that you use the lowest possible temperature on your iron. And I press the front side as well. I make sure that the two darts are towards the center. I'm going to hem the bottom of the skirt just by turning under once and then applying running stitches. This is to keep the satin fabric from raveling. And this is what my setting is for this step. I'm going to use 4, which is the largest stitch. Here I'm going to apply the gathers to the skirt, and I place this at 4 as well, and just straight running stitches just a little above the zigzag stitching that I previously applied to keep the fabric from raveling. I always leave a tail on both sides, keeping in mind that the bobbin thread is at the fashion fabric, which is, by the way, the lace part of this layer on the skirt. I'm going to locate the center portion of the skirt and then mark it with just a pin. And this is so that when I pull the bobbin thread, as I pull it to create the gathers, I would have a marker on where to begin my gathers on this strip of fabric that I've formed for the skirt. I'm pulling the thread here that was facing the bobbin thread. That is actually the bobbin thread where the fashion fabric or lace is placed. So I just gently pull this one. And as you can see, the gathers are formed. It's very small, tight, and even as compared to hand gathering, so I prefer this method over hand gathering. I do this on both sides, the left side and the right side, and I will fit this to the bodice of the dress. I'll also locate the center of the bodice. In that way I could match both center points of the skirt and the bodice. And these two I will pin in place. I work from the gathered skirt in that way. I could see the ruffles, and I could distribute the gathers evenly when I'm sewing. I'm pulling the skirt fabric tightly now to fit the bodice of the dress. I go back to my machine and tighten up my stitches to the regular gauge of about 3. And I start sewing the skirt and the bodice together, right sides together, they're facing each other, and I'm careful when stitching down such that the gathers are not caught, because this will cause distortion if they are not on a flat side. So you've got to be able to sew, making sure that the pieces are flat against each other. I'm checking to make sure the gathers are in the right place, and they are all in the right place. However, the skirt does have a tendency to spring back, so I top stitch at the waistline of the bodice in this way. The skirt will not stand up and be a little bit more unruly. This will tame that skirt from sticking upwards. I'm going to fit the dress on Teresa to see if it will fit her and that if I needed adjustments I could do it. And it looks like she's fitting well. Here's a scan of Teresa in her new dress, and I pinned the back on this one so that I would have markers where I will put the snaps to keep the dress in place. Here's the dress of Teresa that I'm going to finish so that I could put the snap closures in. The first thing that I need to do is trim the excess fabric, and that way it won't be too bulky. I then fold it over to about a quarter of an inch. This is for the overlap, and I whip stitch it by hand in place. Whip stitching not only holds the fabric in place, but also keeps the satin fabric from raveling any further. As you can barely see here, there is that zigzag stitch that is the first reinforcement. I'm now applying the snaps in place. I use about 3 stitches with double thread to anchor the snaps in place. Then I sew the other part of the snap. I'll repeat 3 more of this until I have the entire length of the dress secured in place. The dress will have snap closures at the back.